Welcome to another edition of RCE. Again, this is Brock Palin. You can find us online at rce-cast.com, and you can find our entire back catalog, as well as subscribe in your favorite podcatcher or RSS reader. I also have here Jeff Squires from Cisco Systems, one of the authors of OpenMPI. Jeff, thanks for your time.
Hey, Brock, here we are, another episode. The weather's turning nice, and that means that SC deadlines are probably approaching, right?
Yep. So a number of SC deadlines are starting to come up very quickly here. So if you're planning on submitting something to SC, be sure to get your proposals done and get those submitted.
All right, what do we got for today?
So we have with us today Dr. Gorgolewski of the Stanford Reproducibility Center. So, Chris, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself?
Well, thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be here. My name is Chris Gorgolewski, and I'm a co-director of the Stanford Center for Reproducible Neuroscience. And my goal in research and science is basically get more neuroimaging data publicly available to more researchers.
So why is reproducibility important?
Well, basically, in the business of trying to discover the nature of the universe, we perform lots of studies, and we want to make sure that if we say something today, we can use the same data tomorrow and arrive at the same answer. It's basically the fundament of doing science.
So in the recent past, there's been a number of high-profile retractions in the neuroscience area. Was this? You've blogged about this a little bit and written about this at reproducibility.stanford.edu. Was this part of the motivation for creating this center, or was the motivation before that?
The motivation was before that. The issues highlighted in that paper were basically bringing up that certain analysis methods are flawed and insufficient, and the paper itself was a little bit sensationalist in nature. So the situation is not as bad as it's described, but it does show that it is beneficial to be able to take existing data and reanalyze it again with newer methods or corrected methods, and that's where we come in. And this is where the ability to replicate your results in a formalized fashion is something very useful, especially with historical existing data.
So now the most easiest one to talk about, and I think the specific article that you're referring to, is the 15-year-old bug in the FMRI algorithms for analyzing data and whatnot. How does something like that happen, and how is it not found immediately?
I mean, the situation was not as dire as it might seem. There was a confluence of different things, and the paper did find some problems with a certain piece of software, but there wasn't the explanation of all of what was the major finding of that paper. But to answer your question, how things like that can happen, it's basically the researcher's bias. So if you get results that confirm your theory, or if you get something that is quote unquote statistically significant, you're less likely to go back and search for a problem with your analysis. However, if you don't find what you expected, or your results are not statistically significant, then you go search for a bug. So if you have a bug that biases your results and gives you higher rate of false positive findings, fewer people question those results, and it's harder to find something like that. The other thing is that in neuroscience and human neuroscience, so human neuroimaging, analysis is very complex and has many different stages, and this is just one of those many stages. And it's hard for a single individual to basically go through all of that code and debug it.
And so I think you half answered my next question already is, why exactly is this hard? Why is reproducibility hard? And if everybody is using, the same tools and the same things, then everybody gets the same results, and it makes it difficult to realize that there's actually a problem in there, particularly when the results are what you expect. Is that a correct characterization?
More or less. I unpacked what reproducibility really is into two things that you need to have to reproduce someone's results. You need to have the data, which is the crucial and very, very important part of it. And you need to have their code or codes, whatever you're going to call it. And that second part can actually get quite complex because, especially in scientific software, codes or code is evolving very, very rapidly. We have a plethora of different versions. And there are a few papers in neuroimaging that are showing that things that we didn't expect to influence the results, such as, for example, the order in which you're going to link a certain binary with mathematical libraries, can influence final results. Same with endianness of the system that you're going to run your analysis on. So we have a lot of different variables and a lot of different pieces of software produced and delivered by different groups that at the end give you the final results. So you somehow have to capture all of that to be able to replicate the results.
So why did you focus on neuroscience? Well, I assume that's your area, but why put so much effort into reproducibility for neuroscience specifically?
That's a great question, and two takes on that question. It's like why people care about neuroscience at all, and that's kind of an obvious one to answer because the human brain is the greatest mystery in the world, and we all have one, and we all wonder how it works. So it's definitely a great problem to work on in general. But why trying to solve reproducibility in this particular domain instead of in a general way? Well, we're trying with everything we do, we're trying to be very, very practical. We're trying to be as close to the real scientists and asking real questions as possible to be able to relate to their problems and their limitations. For example, we don't want to ever be perceived of coming from this high horse and telling everyone that they should use this particular procedure or everyone should have 100% coverage in unit tests in every single script they write, because this is unrealistic. And in the same way, we want to provide practical solutions in a particular domain, because this way it's easier for our audience, target audience, which are the scientists, to understand it and apply it to their research.
So kind of in conjunction with my prior question, this is really more focused on reproducibility, not a strict check of correctness, right? Because correctness is also incredibly important in scientific research and discovering the nature of the universe and the human brain and all these kinds of good things. But what you're trying to do is make sure that people are doing it in a reproducible way, and the correctness check is a secondary but a different effort. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, because correctness is an incredibly hard question. And we want, of course, we're doing some work trying to evaluate methods and trying to come up with the best way to analyze data. And part of what the infrastructure we're building is aimed at providing neuroscientists with easy access to the best methods, even though those might be computationally expensive or difficult to deploy. So in that way, we're trying to improve the quality, but you're absolutely right. I can have a completely reproducible technique that is completely wrong.
So on the center's website, you state, with the goal of harnessing high-performance computing to make neuroscience research more reliable.